Hello and welcome to this week's Grumpy Sound Guy Show. I am the Grumpster himself, Mr. J.R. Everhart from CLP Audio and Staging. I am so glad you decided to join us here this afternoon. Today we're going to talk about why in-ear monitors are so hard to get used to. We're actually going to just talk about the in-ear monitor conversation as a whole in reaction to the literal hundreds of comments that I've had in the last 2 or 3 weeks about silent stages, in-ear monitors, wedge monitors, because I'm working on a series where we're going to talk about ringing out wedge monitors, and we're going to go through the whole wedge monitor thing. But today's all about in-ear monitors, why they suck, why it's hard to get used to this, why it's not like playing in front of a wedge monitor that feels natural. You know, we're going to tackle all that stuff today. So you do not want to miss a second of today's show. Hey guys, if I could just have a moment of your time to talk to you about this channel. 49.8% of you guys watching this right now is not subscribed to this channel. Will you please hit that subscription button? It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel on the public side here. And then that gives us tools and resources and for my marketing team to be able to do what we need to do to get this content out to people who really enjoy this sort of thing. The other thing is, if you're super digging this and you'd like a deeper look into my world, then subscribe to the paid side of the YouTube channel. You can join for about the cost of a cup of coffee a month, you know, and then I do vlogs over there. I post content that never goes public, and I let you into my world. I let you into the CLP audio world, and I let you see what our day-to-day life looks like. Love you guys. Thank you for the support. Okay, welcome back. So, why do in-ear monitors suck? Well, let me start off with the absolute most obvious thing about this. And that is, it's not natural, man. You know, we are not created in a manner to where sticking inner canal earbuds in our ears and hearing a isolated mix of music around us, we're not created for that to feel natural, because it's not natural. It's a synthetic thing. It's a man-made thing. We're created to hear music in its natural environment. That's why so many people have a hard time coming off of wedge monitors, because it feels more like a natural sound environment, to where when you get in in-ear monitors, usually the first thing that people complain about is the isolation. And the isolation is a two-edged sword. It's great in the sense of it protects your ears, maybe save your hearing, because believe me, I'll be 53 this year, and my hearing is jacked, dude. If you're somebody, ask one of the guys that work with me, and they'll tell you. Like, my favorite word is huh, you know, because I genuinely want to hear what you have to say. And if people don't look at me and pronunciate correctly and speak with their outside voice, I have a hard time hearing what they're saying. And I miss a lot of things in life because of that. Don't be like me, you know. Embrace the technology to save your hearing, if for no other reason, to give you that protection. Now you're in a controlled environment with in-ear monitors where you can control how loud things are. Now, the absolute best way to eliminate the isolation issue and to open up your mix in a manner to where it feels so much better and more natural is to put up a room mic. Some bands will put an overhead just over the drums on stage. I've seen other bands put something up like right beside one of the front of house speakers, so they're kind of getting a little bit of front of house and they're getting a little bit of the stage. That's kind of a loaded situation. You really want to play around with a couple different mics to do it. If you just put a 57 or a 58 up, you're probably not going to be very happy with what you hear, okay? You're probably going to need a condenser mic of some kind. I would say put up like a large diaphragm, something or another, over the drums if the drummer isn't like crazy loud, or, in front of the drums on the upstage side of the drum shield, or something like that. Play with it, move it around the stage, and find an area that kind of makes everybody happy and makes everybody feel like, hey, I can hear it. And I can hear some of the audience even. When in-ear monitoring first started out, we used to put condensers on the front of the stage so they could hear the audience. We did that a lot in churches, like big churches that were going to in-ear monitors. They did that a lot in theaters that were going to in-ear monitors. And so we kind of carried that technology over to live audio, just in different manners, because obviously the subs are in front of the stage, so you don't want to hear sub in your mix. It's a matter of hearing the audience. So a lot of guys will put pencil condensers up on each side of the stage, pointing toward the audience. Got to give them some of that, and then maybe a large diaphragm, upstage somewhere, or something like that. So yeah, I meant downstage, on the front and downstage. I'm getting my up and downstage backwards there. It's been a long day. It's freaking 115 degrees, dude. Like we're trying to work on the surface of the sun today. Like if you stand in direct sunlight for more than 10 seconds, you'll just burst into flames. I mean, freaking ridiculous. But that's where we are here in the Mid-Atlantic. Humidity is not our friend. It's just not. Hence my outfit this evening. I'm wearing my Ocean City tank and, been working around the shop here and probably have lost 10 pounds today sweating. I got the fan on in the background. There's your grumpy weather report for this week. Anyways, so it was downstage. We would put condensers on the front of the stage, downstage, and then maybe a large diaphragm upstage or whatever. Most bar bands are really just kind of hanging something, upstage by the drums or something like that to kind of just put something in their ears to make them feel like there's something there. A lot of the guys that are all direct, they don't need any of that because there is no stage volume besides the drums. So they will run an overhead over the drums, but that's just to give them an overhead view of the drums. Many of those guys don't have enough inputs to do a complete drum mix in their ears. So what they do is they just do like kick, snare, hat, and an overhead. So that's 4 channels. Instead of kick, snare, hat, rack, floor, or rack, floor, or rack, floor, whatever, as far as toms are concerned, ride, 2 overheads, all the jazz, all the stuff. But yeah, so that's the best way to battle the isolation. So yeah, man, it takes sometimes a hot minute to get used to in-ear monitors. It really does. But I will say 88.375624 people who put in the time, put in the money to buy quality gear, and give themselves a hot minute to get used to the technology, they always come back and say, man, I wish I'd have done this years ago. This is so good, I mean, it's just, you have your own personal mix. The problem is a lot of you guys try to, halfway do this. You buy the cheapest gear on the planet, to do it, and then you got somebody who doesn't even know how to put together a wedge mix, much less an in-ear mix. So that's your first impression of in-ear monitors. And then all the obvious things that I just said, with it being unnatural and having things stuck in your ears and feeling isolated, that's just kind of the icing on the cake that's burning the building down, and your opinion of why you don't want to do in-ear monitors. And then you'll always find some national guy that you've worshipped your whole life, who's probably mostly deaf from playing stadiums and arenas his whole life, who refuses to use ears, and you read it in Bass Player Magazine or Guitar Player Magazine or somewhere on the internet, and you're like, see, this guy doesn't like ears either. He thinks they're the worst thing in the world. Okay, but then there's the other 100,000 bands that are out on the all-original circuit and the cover band circuit and the houses of worship circuit, who are all under 40 years old and using in-ear monitors, most of which are on silent stages or at the very minimum, guitars and bass are direct input. Keyboards obviously are direct input, and maybe they're still using acoustic drums. Maybe they're doing E-kit. That's really whatever flavor your band wants to decide on. That should really be dictated by the size venues you play. I mix guys all the time in small to medium-sized rooms who have acoustic drums, and the drums are not the problem. They're just not, because the guy knows how to play for the room. You know, he uses lighter sticks or silent sticks or hot rods, or there's a bunch of different varieties of sticks that they can use to approach the instrument in a quieter way, as well as just pulling back the amount of energy that they're exhausting and how they, hit this percussive instrument that you have to hit with a stick. That's what people never understand about drums. It's an instrument you literally have to hit with a stick. Think about that. It's going to have some volume to it. But I know guys that have no problem fitting into small rooms on an acoustic kit. They don't hit as many crashes, throughout the songs. They kind of stick in the pocket, stay out of the way until it's their time to shine. And, that's called professionalism, ladies and gentlemen. It just is. I know a ton of guys like that. I also know a ton of guys that have no idea how to do any of those sort of things, and they're an absolute menace to the front of house mix. So there's that too. Two sides to that conversation, But, as I was saying, some guys don't give the technology an honest shot. They get in there, they do all the things I just mentioned, and that's their opinion of the technology. I'll never go ears. Ears are just horrible, and it's not the natural state in which music is created, and blah blah blah, and just all the stuff, man, all the stuff. And then they want to say that, Hendrix or AC/DC or Stevie Ray Vaughan would have never become who they were if they were on silent stages, and that sort of thing and everything. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, because their studio work would still have stood playing through analog amps and all the things that you do in the studio, because the studio is where you get to do whatever you want to do. Make it sound however you want to sound. But I can tell you right now, I see more and more national bands that are either got cabinets and ISO boxes, especially guitar players, or they're just going direct in. A buddy of mine, bass player buddy of mine, was just telling me the other day that he read an article about Billy Sheehan is now using a Helix. He's traveling with a briefcase full of gear. I think they said that he had, I don't know, a Harkey 410 or something on stage, just as some sort of emergency reference, but that he's brought his stage volume way down, trying to, get with how people are doing things these days. That's Billy freaking Sheehan, dude. Tell me again how your gig at the Moose isn't, doable in this format. Or even at your local A-rated dance club. It is the future. Whether you want to embrace it or not is entirely up to you. But if you want to keep working in this business, you're going to have to either find a way to get super quiet, or you're going to have to embrace what is going on with technology. The other complaint that I hear a lot of is expensive. Well, yeah, sure. So's that Les Paul you're playing. So's the, the Fender Deluxe that you're playing, or the Marshall Stack, or the DW drums, or the, the bugs are flying everywhere in here. Or, the chord keyboards that you're playing. Everything we do in this business is expensive. In what world did you think that this was not going to be expensive? That's just crazy. Like, some of you guys act like the in-ear monitoring, I can't even speak the English language today. I may be having heat stroke. I don't know. If I black out, call 911. If some of you guys act like the industry of in-ear monitors should come to you and lay before you, $3,000 worth of earbuds and wireless, IEM systems, and just wait for you to come around. And it's like, dude, that's not the way this works. Now, I know a lot of guys that are using budget gear that are happy with it. I used budget gear and was happy with it. I'm using budget gear when I'm playing drums with my band. I'm using like a little, I think I'm using the ART HP1 or something is what it is. Takes a couple AA batteries, which is what your wireless pack would take, even though this is wired. But those batteries give you a little preamp action. So I have Alien Ear G16 custom earbuds that are 8 drivers per ear. You can check that out at alienears.com. No fancy spelling, just the way it sounds, alienears.com. Go check them out. I absolutely love my G16s. That's 4 subs, 2 mids, 2 highs in each ear. So if you're a bass player or a drummer or a keyboard player that really likes to hear that bottom end of your keyboard, man, G16s is where it's at. And I think the last pair I bought was like under $1,000. You know, those same type of buds from any other manufacturer is like $3,000, $4,000. Plus, what I like about Alien Ears is they send you a do-it-at-home ear mold kit that your girlfriend or your wife can just, you know, in your ears, wait for 2 minutes for it to set up, pull them out, put them in a plastic bag, ship them to Florida, and then that's what they use as your ear molds to make your earbuds with. I did mine and really felt like I screwed them up because I ran out of juice in one ear and needed to make another one real quick and do it in, and I'm like, man, that's probably not going to work. And you know, I sent it to him and was fully, you know, waiting for him to call me and say, dude, what did you do with these molds? You know, do them again, because they look like crap. But you know what? He had no problem making my earbuds off those things. He 3D printed them, which is I think what they're doing now down there. And when I got them, they fit my ears perfect. They sound like a million, but I got to turn it down because those are a lot of drivers in your ears. You could get yourself in trouble if you're not careful. I had to turn my pack down. It's so loud at the last rehearsal we had. Dude, that ART unit I think is, I don't know, 50 bucks, 60 bucks or something. You know, now the earbuds were super expensive, but I'm a low-end guy. I'm a drummer. I'd like to hear a little bit of kick. I like to hear, you know, some bass guitar. Really, it's more about the bass guitar than it is anything, because I'm not a kick addict in my earbuds. You know, I want vocals. I want all the melodic stuff. I want vocals, you know, guitars, keys, horns, you know, all that sort of thing. And obviously bass guitar, because we're playing, especially since most of the bass guitar guys now are direct. They don't have an amp on stage. It used to be I didn't need the bass because I could feel it because I had 810 SVT next to me. Now we're kind of just going direct these days, so I don't have that air moving on stage, so I need it in my ears. The G16s reproduce it just as good as if there was a 810 second sitting next to me. Do I feel that air on my left leg anymore? No. Does that keep me from playing and enjoying the show? No. Look, if you're yelling and screaming at the screen right now, like, JR, you can go fly a kite, dude, or pound dirt. You know, I hate in-ear monitors. I'll never do it. I don't care what you say, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But don't get mad at me. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just telling you where things are. Look, I wish it was 1985 and we can all go play in bars as loud as we wanted to play, and no matter how horrible your band was, everybody showed up and people packed live music venues every single weekend. But that's not the world we live in now. Now I had somebody, let me just say this. Let me put this in perspective for you, and then I'm going to let you go because I'm not going to talk your ear off this week. Plus, I think I'm having a heat stroke. I had a guy out west, I think he was from Colorado, follower of mine, sent me a private message and was telling me that OSHA is now coming around to these live music venues with a dB meter, and if it's over like 92 dB or something like that, I forget what the magic number was. I'm sure that number will change from market to market, but I think in his situation it was 92 dB was a max. They were fining the club $10,000 because they are deeming that environment a hazardous audible environment, that the band is so loud that it can cause injury to people's hearing. The reason they are focusing that toward the casinos is the same reason they were attacking the cigarette companies and that sort of thing, because the wait staff and the employees of the casino or the bar or the venue you're playing don't have a choice but to come to work. They can't get up and walk out and leave if it's too loud. They have to stay. It's their job. It's their livelihood. So yes, they can put earplugs in, but that greatly affects how they can communicate with clients, ordering food, ordering drinks, you know, all that kind of stuff. So now OSHA is getting involved and saying, hey, you're going to turn down and create an environment that's not harmful to the people sitting in the audience, or you're not going to do business, and you're going to pay a $10,000 fine. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that I'm happy about it. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm just telling you, I'm reporting the news, okay? I'm reporting what's going on. You can choose to do with it what you want. You know, hit me in the comments section, because who knows who reads these comments, you know? Believe me, I've had manufacturers reach out to me from stuff that's been said in my comment section. You'd be surprised the people that are reading the comment section on the Grumpy Sound Guy page. Don't let the subscriber numbers fool you. This is the trick about YouTube. You don't have to have 20 million subscribers to have a huge impact and reach. What counts is your watch hours. How long people are watching your videos, how many views you're getting on your videos, and things like that. Those are the real numbers that matter on YouTube. Yes, the subscriber count plays a role. I'm not saying it don't. And obviously, please subscribe. It's free, you know. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll know when I'm posting another video. I promise I won't hoard out your information, and I will not, you know, sell your delicate, you know, children's, you know, college fund. I won't sneak into your house in the middle of the night and steal change off your dresser, you know, and be sniffing around in your wife's panty drawer, okay? I promise. I promise I won't do that. Just hit the subscription button, and if you really, really super dig what we're doing, become a paid subscriber. You know, think about that. Pray about that. Pray about becoming a, you know, $5 a month paid subscriber. You know, that supports what we do here. But I digress. This is technology we are going to have to embrace and have to get comfortable with if we're going to continue to move forward and continue to make money, or at the very least, exercise our hobbies of playing music on the weekends. Churches have gotten hardline on a lot of this, because volume's been a problem in churches forever. You know, there's been little old ladies on the front church pews complaining about the drums being too loud. They were mad because you even brought drums in the building. And now you got live drums in there. And it always cracks me up, these churches that have the drum aquariums where it looks like you're feeding fish, like you're in an aquarium or something, you know, to keep the volume down on the acoustic drums. I don't mind that, as long as I got good reference in there, good ear monitors or a wedge or whatever the church is using to, you know, pipe sound into that guy, and air conditioning and heat, because you'd be surprised how quick it gets hot in that thing. You know, so you definitely need to keep air circulating in there. I have heard of some instances where guys were blacking out in those little drum aquariums because they were doing marathon services. It was super hot in there, and even with a fan blowing around, they just didn't have enough fresh air coming into the place, and they've had some problems and had to stop playing. So be conscious of that, you church production guys. But yeah, this is the wave of the future, guys. This is the wave of the future. Yes, it can suck. It will probably suck right out of the gate, especially if you're trying to work through a lot of budget gear to get from point A to point B, to at least get to a place where you're comfortable. That's the biggest hurdle, to get from, okay, I'm walking away from a wedge and I'm going all in-ear monitor, and I'm just going to have to suck it up until I get there. You know, and I'm going to have to play with the equipment. I'm going to have to maybe use this, use that. Maybe you got the money and the resources just to right out of the gate buy a $1,000, $1,200 wireless in-ear monitor system. I would suggest that. You'll spend less money doing that, and then another $1,000 on a good set of custom molded earbuds. If you do those two things, I promise you, 10 years from now, you'll look back on that and be glad that you did it right the first time and didn't have to hop around on gear like I see bands doing all the time. I see guys that are constantly like fiddling with this, or like those XI things. You got to go over and change the frequency in the middle of the third song because it quit working, or it's cutting in and out. They're coming to me like, dude, I'm getting all kinds of RF interference in my ears. I'm like, that's on your side of the world, dude. You brought that gear in. I don't have any control over that, you know? Yeah, we're living in a crowded RF world. So if you don't buy quality RF wireless gear, you're probably going to have problems. If you want to just dip your toe in the water, buy your set of KZ buds for $60 on Amazon and an XI setup, or I would recommend a wired, like a Behringer P1 or P2, you know, that ART HP1, I think is what it was. I really like that over the Behringer because it has a little preamp in it. But I use the Behringer, I think it's the P1, that's just a passive. It doesn't have any power in it, it's just a passive unit. And still with the G16s, I had plenty of gain. I didn't need to have any kind of preamp or anything in line there. It still worked. You can get those things for like $50. And then at least you're getting a 20 to 20 representation with a wired unit. Now it may get in your way because you got, your guitar player wants to jump around, but at least you can get into it and you can start feeling your way through it. I'm telling you, if you're going to spend a bunch of money out of the gate, buy the buds first. Get with Alien Ear or whoever manufacturer you feel comfortable with buying from, and buy yourself a really good set of multi-driver, custom molded earbuds. Start there. If you're going to spend money, start there. Put $1,000 into it, or something like that, $800. I think Alien has like a triple driver full range thing that I recommend to a lot of guitar players and singers and keyboard players for, I don't know, like $400 or something, $500. And they're custom molded. You can get all kinds of crazy colors and get your band's logo etched into, just all kinds of nutso stuff they got on the website. alienears.com, check it out. If you're going to blow some money, blow it on that, because those earbuds will work on whatever system you're using. Use a little $50 wired rig to just get going. At least you got good buds. At least you're getting a good representation of it. And then get somebody in the band or hire a sound engineer to come out to a rehearsal or something to help get your mix dialed in. That's huge. That's the other half of this conversation. Having somebody or learning it yourself, because most of the bands I work with, they have their own mixer and a split snake. So they have their own digital mixer, and everybody controls it with an iPad on a stand or their cell phone or something like that, and they can control their own mix throughout the show. Man, that gives you enormous amounts of freedom, to have control over your mix. You'll get it dialed in within the first half or the first set for that room. Every room sounds a little different, so you may have to move it around a little bit. But the good news is, when you have that specific setup where you have your own digital mixer, a split snake, and your own in-ear, gear and custom buds, now your gigs will sound much, much more consistent to you. Now you have the same monitor mix from one gig to the next. Yeah, the room acoustics may change a little bit. You may have to turn the room mic down or up or, move that around a little bit. If you're using different mics from venue to venue, you may have to move those around a little bit. But now you have a consistent mix every single gig. And the better in-ear system you use, whether it's wired or wireless, the better the experience is going to be. So I would safely say for $2,000, 22 or 400, you can set yourself up with an in-ear monitor system that you probably won't have to mess with for the next 10 years. Most of you guitar players can't say that about your amp. Most of you guys change guitar amps about every 2 or 3 years. This is gear. I know people right now that spent that money 20 years ago, and they're still using those systems. They have replaced their earbuds because older custom molded buds, over time, the material would shrink, so you'd lose the seal, which gives you all the low end response. The materials they're using now are much, much better than that, and they're not having those problems like they used to. I know specifically Alien Ears is using different material now than what they used 20 years ago. And like I said, I think they're 3D printing most of that stuff now. So, it's super groovy stuff, man. There's never been a better time, and honestly, an easier time to step into in-ear monitors than what there is now. So that's kind of my spiel on the whole deal. Like I said, I'm not going to keep you for an hour just talking in circles here. Like I said earlier, if you haven't subscribed, 48% of you guys are not subscribed to this channel. 48% that are watching this video right now are not subscribed to the channel. Can you please subscribe to the channel? And if you really, really dig what is going on here and you see the good that I'm trying to bring to the table, for the price of a Starbucks cup of coffee every month, you can be an insider and you'll get all the vlog stuff that I do. I just did a video for the members where I was just basically talking about what the last week looked like for gigs, the challenges that we had to deal with and overcome, dealing with the heat. That was another thing. We had a stage rental. We went in depth talking about some of the ins and outs of that. I had some gear stolen from me at my DC gig. It happens. Thankfully, it wasn't, enough gear that was going to shut us down. But yeah, we lost about $1,000 worth of gear from our stage rental inventory, at that gig. Somebody stole a pair of chain hoists from us. So we had to come home and order new chain hoists. That was extra special. So you get all that kind of insider information that I don't usually talk about on the public side. The public side is usually subject driven. The member side is usually more reactive from their comments and the things they've asked me to talk about. And I specifically try to meet their needs, and then I let them into the inside world of CLP audio and staging, the Grumpy Sound Guy, and my personal, walk throughout the production industry. I talk about the ups and the downs, the ugly stuff, the celebrations, the failures. I get stupid crazy honest over there. For the price of a cup of coffee per month, you can be part of that group of people who get to see what's behind the curtain. I love you guys. I'll see you next week.